everyone, this is mission 1 of the Attrition of War campaign that is overlaid over the Bagration campaign. So if you've seen this on YouTube, then the experiment actually worked, and we now have a series of videos to watch showing the attrition of war over 2 regimental armies. So mission 1 is Onslaught. So this is showing the initial attack of the Soviets of Operation Bagration. Therefore, Germans have mostly fortifications, and because this is more of a shorter campaign than I would like to run with this attrition, usually 6 or 7, we, as I should have mentioned before, we're just going to up the points, but for this one we have a table, so we're going to be doing the upper end, which I'll show you later. So let's have a little look at the mission map and all the special rules, and then we'll go into the lists. This is the mission, Onslaught. So more than half the board is German deployment, Soviets get a little reconnaissance and force deployment, and then everything else goes behind. You can see there the winning conditions, etc. And some of the fortifications as well. So we'll have a little look more of the table showing how many fortifications we have, and a little few surprises that I have in store for the Soviets. Okay, so here we have the table. So we're going to go for the upper end. So 150 points for the Soviets, 75 for the Germans, but then a lot of fortifications. And then we can see some of the Onslaught special rules. Basically the most brutal one is that preliminary bombardment, but on the morning of Bagration there was quite a lot of artillery being fired on the German lines, so this reflects that, and hopefully you won't take too much damage. Well, my company commander anyway, but as his regimental officer, I thought this front line was a bit quiet anyway, but luckily I managed to send him some reserves to hold the line before any of this happened. Here's some of the fortification special rules. I have instructed my company commander not to use minefields. Instead, he is using booby traps. So he has a lot of booby traps because, as he says here, you get 4 for every 1 minefield you trade in. So these are just going to be some sort of psychological weapon for the Soviet company command. And also we can place them underneath enemy units. So this is probably the primary way of pinning Soviet infantry and delaying any armoured breakthrough through the front line. And that's the plan with that, since minefields can be circumvented and quite easily dug up at times as well. Okay, so this is the German list, part of the regiment. So taking a mix from different companies, more or less it is the 3rd company if you go back to the regimental list, with a few other things thrown in, like the armoured 7.5cm guns and the Stugs, but this is just like most of the regiment is further back on leave. But luckily there's a bit of some armoured elements close by that can respond. For fortifications, there are 2 anti-tank bunkers, so these are 7.5cm guns, a panzer turret, and there's also 8 MG nests on the field. Idea being, the panzer turret is pretty much the only thing that can knock out Soviet heavy armour, so that's why that's there, but there's only the one, and it can be taken out fairly easily by German heavy caliber weapons as well, but that is that. So it's going to be spread really thin, but hopefully my company commander can hold with what he's got. So here we have the infantry boys. We have the HQ, 2 SMG teams with a Panzerfaust. Then we have the Panzer Grenadier platoon with Panzerfaust and a Panzer Schreck. And then we have the armoured boys with 4 half-tracks and a Panzerfaust. I say Panzerfaust, they all have to have Panzerfausts in Bagration. But here we are, and remember all 20th Panzer Division as well. So we'll have a little look at that command card at the end as well. Still part of the formation, we have 3 Pak 40s, 6 armoured 7.5cm guns, and 4 Stugs and 2 8cm mortars. Quite nice to have the Stugs in formation with the infantry, but yeah, these were originally in 2nd Company, both of them, but they've just been attached to 3rd Company, as the rest of the regiment is further back, either training or enjoying some leave in Minsk. So these guys are drawing the short straw, and just basically a composite company on the front line under command of 3rd Company. So that's it, and then we'll have a look at the one support unit that we have. Okay, and support is 3 Marders. The Germans found these in a container or a rail cart. They must have come from the desert because they're still painted up in desert camouflage, but they're going to use them anyway because they are decent. But yeah, they haven't managed to get in new versions yet, but these ones will do until they turn up. Maybe next game or the game after, we can imagine. Okay, and then here we have the 20th Panzer Division, which is applied to pretty much all the elements of the regiment apart from the support. So they remain confident, and last stand is good, but their counter-attack is not great because they have an NCO shortage, and again, because the NCOs aren't around, their tactics are not great as well on a 4+. It just no one really tended to show them how to dig in training. It would seem a sergeant needs to be the motivating factor in them picking up shovels. But it's not too bad, and the counterattack doesn't really have much bearing on the open top stuff and like the 7.5cm guns, because their counterattack is 5 anyway. So it isn't too bad really in that regards. So now let's have a look at the Soviet horde. Okay, as mentioned, I am German regimental officer, and Richard is my company commander. For the Soviets, we have Mike, and Sherry will be company commander. And here is their list drawn from their regiment. So plenty of stuff to play with. Nice few debuts as well. I mentioned that the 20th Division has debuted today, but we're having some scouts, which are very nice. One of the few Soviet units that could actually hit on 4s instead of 3s, so that's going to be strange. And we've also got a new command card in play as well. And other than that, it's all the same, although I have not used Hero Shock Rifle before. I'll have to dig into it. But until then, we'll say this is a debut for them as well. So let's have a look at the models. Okay, so this is just the rifle companies in the HQ. So we have 2 HQ teams and then 2 massive blobs of Russian infantry. So those are 13 DPMG and rifle teams with a commissar, 2 HMGs, and a flamethrower each. So pretty meaty. One of those companies is bigger than the entire infantry that Richard has, and Sherry has 2 of them, so that's a lot of stopping. We only have the 1 mortar, so a lot to do, and there's still more in the formation as well. Okay, so this is the SMG contingent. We have a Hero SMG company. They mentioned that these are Hero Shock. They're not the normal ones. So that is 7 SMG teams, a commissar, and a flamethrower. And then we also have the scouts, which is 9 SMG teams. So a lot of them as well. And here we have the artillery contingent of this force and the formation. So we have 620mm mortars and 6 82mm mortars. So nice coming in 6s because they get to reroll their misses. Only problem is they're only trained, so ranging in over terrain will be 5s. But all in all, the 120mm mortars are quite decent artillery. So hopefully they won't take too much damage on my stuff. But the good thing is they can't hurt the fortifications. So they'll have to concentrate on the squishy infantry instead. So here we have the support section. So going from left to right, we have 4 IS-2 guards, heavy tanks. We then have 6 T-34-85s. These aren't heroes, they're just regulars. And then we have 10 OT-34 flame tanks. So that's a lot of armor to deal with, and only 3 fortification guns that have anti-tank, with the Panther being the only one able to really deal with the IS-2s, and then a lot of stuff in reserve. That's going to have to come in and have to put a shift in. So these booby traps better start working, otherwise we're going to have to be pulling back a little bit quickly. Okay, we have the Marashakova card, that's a new one, and so you get to move the ranged in mark at the beginning of the game 6 inches and make your own luck. Mike did originally have Under the Cover of Smoke in this list. As you noticed, there's a 3-point deficit, which he doesn't mind, but he doesn't have the requisite to use it, since you need artillery pieces to use it and not the mortars. So I had to tell him to take it out, and I do believe his regiment actually hasn't got the guns either, but I haven't broken the news to him yet. But he will eventually have points to use it, so I'll break to him a little point. So let's have a look at the board. Okay, so I set the board up trying to simulate what I would think a front line or a frontier defense would look like. So left would be the German held lines, so forests, they're providing with cover and to move things up behind, and then trying not to have any forests in the way between the Soviet line. But obviously they'd leave some farms because they can go out and take some milk and some bread from the locals. But this map was also showing that the preliminary bombardment has devastated the little edge of the town, as you can see here, and there's lots of craters as well. So also to hamper any German movement coming through as well, because I didn't think it'd be fair having the Germans having a nice cover of the hills and trees. So instead they have to weave through all these craters if they're coming in that way. So plenty of fields. So the only tall terrain in the centre is the farm buildings, but there's plenty of terrain with the hedges and fields. And we do have a little hill on the Soviet side as well. So if they did have a spotter, that would have been a good place to go as well. So let's go into everyone's favourite section, the Oracle of Battle. So my wife, the Oracle of Battle, predicts the Soviets will win this game. Can't blame her, just looking at the sheer number of everything. Basically filled the entire section of the table I had them laid out, and then I did try explaining to her what the because we're using the flat cards for the fortifications from the river pack, what they were, but I don't think she counted them as models, so she's definitely backing the Soviets to win today. So we'll see if she's right. Okay everyone, it's 3 years since the start of Operation Barbarossa. The Germans were having expected a quiet morning until they were rudely disturbed by the artillery of the Red Army. They've managed to get into their foxholes and brace for the upcoming battle. We have 1st Platoon of the Grenadier Company here. There's MG nests scattered around because this is the frontier with some barbed wire. No minefields have been placed because they're all booby traps. On both flanks we have anti-tank bunkers, and in the middle by the road we have a Panther turret. Over here, parked out of sight, we have the armoured 7.5cm half tracks, the mortars in the middle, and the HQs by the hill with the platoon. In ambush we have some Pak 40s, and we've called up reserves, and we're expecting a 2nd platoon with half tracks, Marders and some Stugs. The scouts report to the east, Soviets, thousands of them, and here they come. The Soviets are using a reconnaissance in force with an entire company of infantry. Towards the south we have T-34 flamethrower tanks and scouts in front who have done a spearhead. We have the mortars, the heavy ones at the back. They are bunched up because they are out of range of the German mortars. We have the SMG company behind with the IS-2s on the road. In this field here we have the smaller mortars with 2nd Company and Battalion HQ with them, and then T-34 85s at the top. And here we have the Horde. So we're going into first turn for the Soviets, but before we do that we need to resolve a preliminary bombardment from the Warhammers of the Soviet artillery. Okay, so preliminary bombardment has been done. Sherry rolled extremely well, but luckily Richard did roll some good saves. So only one team has been lost from the Grenadiers, and the mortars got hit, but luckily Richard saved it. The Pack 40s and ambush got hit, but again saved. But then Sherry got 5 hits on the armoured 7.5cm half tracks, and only 1 equalled, and so that's a bail, and then there's 4 dead. So I just learned something: don't put top armour 0 stuff when there's preliminary bombardments. So the German day just got that a little bit worse. So now we have the Soviets turn 1 movement, so let's see where they end up. Okay, we have finished movement. It's been 2 days doing this. So we have the scout company doing a successful follow me through the fields with the flame tanks going behind them as well. First company is moving up, another successful follow me, but these guys were just not outside of the, they couldn't hear their officer. The SMG company is moving up, their officers in the building, again they couldn't hear him doing the follow me. IS-2s road dashing up the road, and then we have second company in the HQ moving up as well, and then the T-34 85s did a cross here. So that makes it cross checker 1, so then did a tactical, a terrain dash going over. So pretty much the only shooting we have for the Soviets are the mortars. Luckily there is nothing currently under the templates, so Sherry will have to range in, and then we'll see what the Germans can piece together going into their first turn. Okay, so both mortars tried ranging in over here. We looked at the angles, and luckily this end team can just about see through the edge of these houses, but it didn't matter because Sherry failed with all attempts and all mortars. So, me being a regimental leader for the Germans, I'll call that a win, and we're going off a bit lightly there. So, now we go into German turn 1. Okay, so the armoured mortar, the armoured 7.5 managed to get back in, so no last stands yet. Mortars remain pinned, so a primary source of pinning Soviet infantry is gone. The Grenadiers have managed to rally, and the Pack 40s have not come in and remain pinned. And we also have no reserves yet. So now we have German shoot. Well, I can say we're probably not going to be moving much, so we'll see if we move anything, and if not, we'll be going straight into German shooting and see if we can start picking off some Soviets. Okay, so Germans didn't move and they started firing. So the anti-tank bunker, I'm using dice to show what is fired and what's not, because I don't have that many gone to grounds. So fired, took out a flame T-34, Panzer turret fired and missed. Biggest tank of all coming down the road at them. The other bunker hit the other T-34 and brewed it up, and then this MG nest and these grenadiers here opened up on the advance party of the first company, have pinned them and have killed the commissar, a rifle team and the flamethrower. So not too much of a bad trade-off there, especially the commissar and the flamethrower is good. So that is it, and now we go into Soviet turn 2. Here we have Soviet moving, the SMG, these are the scouts, again moving up with a follow me and the flame tanks sticking close to them. First company rallied and are moving forward. So quite a few getting through the barbed wire, some getting snagged, but still, and then we realised there's even more back here that are moving through the buildings. IS-2's doing a tactical up, only the front one will be able to fire because of all the infantry. These guys, the SMG companies who don't like follow me's, are still moving up. And then second company who passed their follow me, who are really wanting to get stuck into the Germans, are moving up with the HQ. And then the T-34s did a tactical, so they're lining up their barrels onto the German fortifications. So now we have German Soviet shooting. Problem for these mortars back here is now that basically people are getting too close to their bombardments, which is a problem, but basically the big mortars can do the job anyway.
Okay, so started with a bombardment. The little mortars managed to range in, get a few hits but no kills, and again the 120mm mortars not wanting to do anything. The T-34s almost managed to get some kills on the MG nest and the bunker, but nothing. And then this company had enough of getting shot at by the Germans, opened up, but no kills unfortunately. And now this IS-2 at the front managed to get a hit on the Panzer turret, hit it. Richard failed his save, and then Sherry used make your own luck. Although the firepower is a 2+, getting that Panzer turret is very good. Really crippled that centre defence there. So that is it. There was no firing over here because everyone dashed and keeping their heads down. So we go into German turn 2. Okay, so everyone's managed to rally. The Pack 40s have not come in from ambush yet, but though the Soviets have started stepping on some booby traps. So there is one here and here, because these tanks have crossed into our deployment zone, and there's 2 under the SMG teams here, which they need to get rid of. Another one has appeared by here under these 2 teams, one right under an IS-2, and then turns out there's a few booby traps right in front of this MG nest and these 3 teams here. So anyone coming into contact with these guys are going to have to go through them as well and risk being blown up. So that is the motivation startup steps. So there is some movement to do. Germans might do some movement, otherwise we will get straight back into the shooting, and now we have the 8cm mortars in play this time, so that will be great. We did have some movement. The 7.5s have moved so they can do a blitz move later on. Over here, the anti-tank bunker managed to bail out a T-34, and one of the machine gun nests managed to kill one of the SMG teams. The 8cm mortars also tried to range in by here, but failed in all 3 attempts, so not a great game for artillery. Centre company is being absolutely hammered, so they're pinned by a lot of MG nests, but only a couple of kills. Nothing to hit at the IS-2s. Over here, another T-34 got bailed, no kills, and the second company got opened up on by the grenadiers in the centre. Only lost their flamethrower, but that is quite a nasty thing to lose. And that is it for the shooting. So now we go into, again, Soviet turn, and this time it's their 3rd turn. Okay then, so motivations. All the Soviets have managed to get back in their tanks, and first company at the front again is very keen to keep on moving, and that they shall. The only problems we have is some tanks have triggered booby traps, so they have the choice to either stay where they are or push and see if they trigger them. But these Soviets do have decent skills apart from the T-34s, so let's see where they end up. Okay, so the booby traps didn't get any tanks, but they managed to pin this SMG team, and they also pinned the centre company, so that is significant. Although they didn't kill anyone, it means they can't assault. So the guys who started their movement in first company have stopped, so first company can fire. The IS-2 in the booby trap managed to get over it, but then everyone else got stuck on the barbed wire, so they're just going to stay back. The T-34s have remained stationary. Second company is quite a lot of them getting snagged on barbed wire, but Follow Me has got some of them into assault range. And then the SMGs can't assault, the scouts, and then the other SMG companies moving towards the left, going through the fields here. So now we have shooting. The only problem the Soviets have now is, again, their artillery is getting too close to everything, so they might have to re-range in again, and mortars are probably the only targets for the big mortars, so we will see what happens. Okay, so over here the flamethrowers have got rid of the defences, and in the centre basically an entire company of Soviets fired on these, and eventually none of them got through, but they pinned them. It was the big machine gun on IS-2 which took out a Panzer Grenadier team. And then over here again, lots of direct fire shots from the T-34s, but no kills yet. and almost got killed on the MG nest with the infantry. Now Sherry needs a decision where she's going to assault. She can assault with maybe 1-2 teams with the infantry here, or the IS-2, but there's still a Panzerfaust and a Panzerschreck here, so it'll be a bit ropey. And although there's a few pinned down teams here, there's still quite a few MG nests in the area, so it could be a bit of a suicide run, and there's a booby trap as well, so still a lot of things to think about for Sherry. Okay, so the Soviets will not be doing an assault, so we go into German turn 3, and we will be getting reserves this time, but they could be a little bit too late, although the Germans are taking a hammering from about pretty much everything at the moment, so let's see if anything turns up. Motivation step, everything rallied apart from an MG nest. Ambush has popped up by here, and there's a lot of booby traps that the Soviets didn't see. A lot of them doubling up on the T-34 flame tanks, just sticking them on top rather than underneath. And then there's another one that the IS-2 has just triggered. Only one reserve came in. Richard failed at all his reserve throws, and they have come in over here, the Panzer Grenadier Company coming in to help out the other platoon. And that is it. So now we go into movement, so probably the only thing that's going to move is a potential blitz move with the Armoured 7.5. So let's do them, and then we'll get into the shooting. Okay, so the T-34s remain unscathed over here because this thing can't hit the side of the barn door, or the barn itself, shall we say. These guys are pinned with a mixture of fire from MG nests and half-tracks and Panzer Grenadiers. These guys are not fired. Only a few got killed. The guys who managed to get through the barbed wire are dead. First company were already pinned anyway, didn't lose any. The SMGs managed to get ranged in on and lost another guy. And then over here we can see the mess on the flamethrower tanks. So 3 are dead, courtesy of Pak 40s and Stummels. And then 4 more are bailed. Because Sherry did manage to roll quite a lot of 6s. She can't bounce 89 shots, but she can bounce equal 80-12. So that sums up Sherry's weird rolling. So we are going to the assault step, where we're going to have a little sneak up on this IS-2 with limited defensive fire, because he is sneaking up. And we're going to see if these guys can do a successful shoot and scoot as well. It would be nice if they could. So let's see what happens. Okay, so the Stummels did a successful shoot and scoot. And then the guy rolled a 1 for his save. Did get in, but then died. Only 1 hit and 1 for the save. So the IS-2 is looking okay for now. So we're going into Soviet turn 4. Okay, so motivation. All 4 T-34 flame tanks failed to get in. But luckily Sherry passed the last stand, otherwise that would have been an awful way to lose these tanks. Although problems have arisen in the centre, as 2 companies have failed to rally. The scouts have rallied though, so they still have the scouts and the SMG company going forward, but there's a few booby traps that the tanks need to move over as well. But that is where we end it for movement, so now we go into the motivation we've just ended. So now we're going into movement, and just realised that they got a good position here for artillery on this lot. So it's going to be all SMG troops that we're relying on this turn, and 1 solitary T-34 flame tank. Okay, so in the movement phase, the unit leader from the scouts issued a mine clearing order for himself and 2 other guys, so they got rid of a couple of booby traps, so helping out some of the T-34s that are bailed. The 4 guys who didn't do anything are moving into the woods, and the remaining T-34 flame tank is moving towards this Pak 40. The only guys who can be moving forward in the centre are the SMGs, and they have done that. And the first and second company have successfully dug in. IS-2s have remained stationary because there's a lot of booby traps underneath them, and the other T-30s have remained stationary to neutralise these bunkers over here. So that is it for Soviet movement. These mortars are moving up as well, so next turn they can actually start ranging in. So that is it. So, shooting. Okay, so Soviet shooting over here. This Pak 40 managing to dodge SMG and a flamethrower shots coming at it. Artillery managed to pin the mortars and the Pak 40s, but no kills somehow. Over in the centre, the IS-2s have managed to get rid of a machine gun nest, but that is it. And the Panzer Grenadier Company is down to 4 teams, including their Panzerschreck, and they are pinned again. So we are in range to do some assaults. Not some assaults, but some assaults. The SMG team here is in range to go onto the Pak 40, but there is some defensive fire, so it's up to Sherry whether she wants to attempt that or not. Okay, so Soviet assaults. The Soviets managed to take out a Pak 40. Richard just voluntarily pulled back because now these guys don't have to do a shoot and scoot to get into position, and only one Pak 40 had to edge back ever so slightly to get out of range. So we have a German turn 4. Okay, German motivation. The Pak 40s remain pinned, and again the MG nest remains pinned over here. Another booby trap has appeared in the woods underneath 2 scout bases, and same here, and unfortunately a commissar and a flamethrower team might trigger it. Only reserved to come in are going to be the Stugs, and they most likely will be coming on this flank to reinforce stuff. So we will get into movement. Okay, so on the left flank, only 3 bailed T-34s remain. The scouts still haven't lost, not pinned and haven't lost any. The SMG company lost about 3 guys in that last phase and are pinned. Everyone else was pinned anyway, and the second company managed to lose 1 guy. They actually lost more, but then I realised that they were dug in, so we went back and did it all. And this bunker over here managed to get himself 2 T-34s, so 3 in total for him at the moment. So there we go. That is German shooting done and no assaults, so now we go into Soviet turn 5. Okay then, so one of the T-34s managed to get back in and pass the last stand. These guys have passed their rally. First company have failed. Just remember they have lost their commissar, so it's a bit difficult. And second company has managed to rally as well. So things are starting to move again for the Soviets. So let's get into Soviet movement. Okay, so over here the scouts have managed to sneak around the side, probably get rid of this MG nest, but there's quite a lot of armour for them to deal with. The remaining T-34 has moved up to either go for a Pak or MG nest, but there's also a flamethrower from the SMGs that can do the similar job. IS-2s again remain stationary. Too many booby traps under them for now. And over here, second company's moving forward. Quite a lot of them getting snagged on barbed wire. And again, T-34s remain stationary. It's Operation Get Rid of Half Tracks. Ease things up for everyone over here. And that is it. So now we go into Soviet shooting. Okay, so the Soviets have managed to get rid of another MG nest over here. Fortunately, the flame tank managed to miss all its hits on the Pak 40 here, because that would have been brutal for the campaign. And unfortunately as well, none of the tanks seem to be able to hit these half tracks, so this assault here is probably going to have to wait another turn, because that is too much defensive fire to dodge, even for the Soviet hordes. But there's enough here to get in and stuck in on the MG nest and mortars, and hopefully wrap up this lot down here as well. So and down here as well. So there is a few assaults, so let's see what the Soviets can do. Okay, so the Soviets have managed to overrun the positions they assaulted. They managed to get rid of this MG nest and the MG nest and 8cm mortar. So Richard pulled back rather than losing any more. So you had to lose a Pak 40 which is surrounded, and the mortars pulled back to here. And that is where we leave this. So now we're going into German turn 5, sorry. Okay, so down here the Pak 40 has run away and the 8cm mortar has not rallied. Everyone else has rallied though, and the Marders are coming in, but where the hell are they going to go is the big problem here. because there's a bit of blockage around everywhere, so we'll have to figure out what to do. So as we go into German turn 5. Okay, so the Stummels remain stationary to try and get rid of T-34s. These Stugs are moved to hose down the infantry team so they can see through the forest, and one Stug can actually shoot at a T-34, so that's what's going to happen. The Armadas did a terrain dash to go behind the hill, and that is it. Oh, the Grenadiers on the hill tried to dig in and failed, and that is it. So now we're going to German shooting, and there's not much left for them to do. There's a few active MG nests and one bunker. There's just Soviet everywhere at the moment. But luckily, we could put some booby traps down, which we will do. We've got 3 left, so we'll start putting them down. Okay, so T-34s remain standing over here. Did take 3 hits from the Stummels, but bounced all the hits, even 2 hits on the side. This SMG company here took an absolute hammering from the guys on the hill and the Stugs firing through the woods. They're in last stand range now, and they've lost their commissar and their flamethrower with only 2 left. And then over here, all the forward elements of 2nd Company are now gone, but the T-34s over here remain standing. So that is it, and we're going into turn 6. And the Soviets are still in a good position, keeping this game going, and still haven't lost any units yet, but we'll see. Okay, so Soviet motivation. All the T-34 flame tanks are now back in. So there's 2 of them with booby traps under them, which is a problem, but they don't need a last stand anymore. These guys did not rally, but passed their last stand. 1st Company has rallied. 2nd Company has remained pinned. So plenty to do for the Soviets. So will Sherry finally start moving up the IS-2s and risking the booby traps to dislodge the enemy infantry, or keep peppering away as they've been doing all game? So we'll see what they end up doing in Soviet movement. Okay, so booby traps are starting to have a bit of an effect. They've been triggered by the scouts down here, pinning them. And they also triggered on one of the T-34s here, but it managed to survive but remained stationary. The infantry from 1st Company are moving through, but the barbed wire is really holding them back. And over here, 2 of the IS-2s triggered on the booby traps, but one of them equaled the AT, so is pinned, and then the rest are okay. And this company over here has dug in again. But there we go. So some of the IS-2s are in position maybe to launch some assaults, as well as the infantry. So we'll see what they can do and move into the shooting phase for the Soviets. Okay, so it turns out the T-34s here don't actually know how to fire their main guns, because the guys who actually had an open shot in these Stummels all missed. It was the guy who tried moving, so I'd overworked and all this crap to fire through. Managed to get a hit, but only managed to get a bale and a Stummels ass. The shooting for the Soviets is really starting to slacken a bit at the moment. A lot of things missing. Got 2 guys on the hill with the repeat bombardment. The heavy mortars again not ranging in. I think they only managed to range in once this game so far. And the IS-2s not really getting enough hits. These guys being gone to ground has really been effective so far. So we go into assaults. There are some assaults over here. The IS-2s can get involved. There's some defensive fire coming from Panzerfausts and Panzerschrecks, so we'll see if they can stop them. Okay, so the IS-2s went in for an assault. They took out 2 of the Grenadiers, putting them on last stand, but they did fail a counter-attack, losing an IS-2 in the process as well. So bit of a stalemate on this objective, with the Grenadiers pulling back further enough to stop the 1st Company getting involved. They did have to counter-attack using, because they would have lost an MG nest, but they did roll a 5 for their counter, which they need for 20th Division. So still a lot to do for the Germans going into their turn 6. Okay, so the 8cm mortar has had enough and run off. The Stummel has remounted and is continuing to fight, and the 2 remaining guys over here. Everyone on the hill has unpinned, and these guys have also managed to rally as well, so that is good. And now the Germans can move things around, do some shoot and scoots, and hopefully put these Soviets outside of 8 inches, because that would be a victory for the Germans if this is possible. So let's see what is within 8 and what the Germans need to get rid of. Okay then, so this is the situation. From this objective, the Germans need to get rid of this SMG company and this T-34. And this objective, they need to get rid of these 2 teams and kill or bail the IS-2 to claim victory. So movement, the Marders have done a blitz move and have got onto the crest of the hill. And the 2 Stummels here have done a tactical to get into side shot, or actually there's a turret there now pointing at them, onto the T-34, and 1 Stug can also shoot there as well. So that is situation. It is all down to dice now. So let's see if the Germans can do it. Okay then, so it is game. All the infantry managed to get killed. There is one guy here that I think he passed about 7 saves on the bounce, and then 1 final hit got him. The IS-2 got bailed by the Marders, and the T-34 got bailed by the Stug, so then the Stummels were free to shoot the infantry in the woods. So it is a 2 losses for Richard, because he lost the Pak-40s and the 8cm mortars, so that would result in a 6-3 victory. Sorry, a 7-2 victory, because he lost 2 units. So we'll have to look up how many reinforcement points. So that would be 30 reinforcement points for Richard and 15 for Sherry. So what we'll go through now is basically in the campaign, all of Sherry's bailed out tanks have 1 last chance to rally. If they don't, and then they need a last stand, they need to do that, and if they don't, they die. And also any units that are bailed out or pinned down within 8 inches of an enemy unit pretty much surrenders. So there's a few units there that is going to happen, so we'll see what happens, and then we'll go over everything and ban the matches. Okay, so before I go into who's gone into the reinforcement pool, these scouts managed to rally, so they managed to sneak away. This guy failed his remount, so is dead. The IS-2 within this guy managed to get away, and then 1 didn't remount, so he is lost as well. So basically 1 T-34 and an IS-2 got lost as well. So that is it. So now, Sherry, do you have a man of the match? Who were they? Okay, feedback is Sherry's man of the match was the IS-2s, mainly because of that insane KO on the Panzer turret early on, and the fact that they were quite immovable and almost gave a chance for the Soviets to push off this objective. And Richard's one was he was toying with 1st Platoon just because of the amount of stuff thrown at them, but he went with the Stummels. Considering that beginning of Richard's turn 1, only 1 of them was active, and they're still here turn 6, basically getting rid of most of these T-34s themselves and helping in driving off the SMG company in the woods. Outstanding. I am being regimental commander of the Germans. I'm very happy with the outcome. Pak-40s are the things I'm the most devastated about losing, and both of these grenadier platoons do need to go to reserve to refit. But apart from that, losses were quite minimal, unlike the Soviets. So let's see, basically the next 2 games shouldn't be any problem, but then we'll start seeing attrition creeping in, hopefully for the Germans, sorry, not the Germans, the Soviets, but let's see what happens later on. So next game is hammering the line. Basically, although Richard has done an excellent job for my regiment here, there has been breakthroughs north and south of this position, and we're in danger of being cut off, so we are being pulled back to fight again.
Okay, we're not done yet, though you can't sneak away yet, so we're going to be going over what casualties the regiment has sustained. So as mentioned, some units will be a bit over the place with the other companies because they were mixed together to best fight the battle. So let's do the Germans first. So as you can see, this part of the force, the armoured Panzer Grenadier platoon is gone. They're not dead, it's just they're below minimum strength, so they have gone to the reserve pool. Likewise is the same with the Panzer Grenadier platoon and their Panzerschreck below strength, so they have gone to the reserve pool as well. As I've just been doing recording, I've also noticed that the armoured 7.5cm gun for that second Panzer Grenadier platoon is gone as well. The good thing is I've just marked it down myself. 2 of them are in the reserve pool because 4 of them got knocked out in the battle. But that has been recorded, so just put an imaginary red line through the armoured 7.5s, but you will see them in the next, in the 3rd section in the reserve pool. So just managed to forget about that one. Okay, so next section, the 8cm mortars are gone. No more of them. They'll have to be replaced completely. And the 7.5cm tank hunters are down to 1, 3 being lost in the game, but I only used 3 out of the 4, so 1 of them is in the reserve pool as well. Okay, so here we can make out the reserve pool for the Germans. So we have the 4 half tracks, 5 MG 42 teams, 1 Panzerschreck, 2 armoured 7.5cm guns, and 1 Pak 40. So I am going to wait until after the next game till I can clump things together and make full strength units. And I'm going to keep my 30 reserve points for now. No need to spend anything. I didn't use any command cards that I need to replace yet. And at the moment, I'm still in a decent position to maybe field troops for the next 2 games. So I'll wait till then to use my resources. Okay, so let's have a look what the Soviets are working with. So the 10 OT-34 tanks have been sent back. So there's only 2 left, so they've gone to the reserve pool, and that is it for this part. Okay, so the rifle companies, both companies were below minimum strength, so what was left has been sent to reserve pool. Again, I forgot to mark out that the Hero SMG company is completely wiped out, but Mike knows about these, and the scouts are down to 7, not 9. And we can also see that the T-34-85s, although were really mauled in this game, there's still 5 left, so still minimum. And it's the same again with the IS-2s. And then at the bottom, Make Your Own Luck and the Marshakova were spent, so they need to replace as well. So I tend to do units that can still be used, are just highlighted and then updated at the corner there. Okay, so here we have what is in the reserve pool. We have 1 Commissar team, 4 heavy machine guns, 11 DPMG rifle teams, and 2 OT-34s. Mike had 15 reserve points. He's already notified me he has spent all but 1 point to bring the T-34-85s back up to strength. And he's also repurchased Lucky and Make Your Own Luck as well. So the Soviets are already spending, so I would hazard a guess, considering he's bringing that T-34 company back up to strength, that we might be up against T-34s again. So this is going to be interesting. And just say that me and Mike are really enjoying this regimental administration section of the game. Really adds to it. I haven't really got too much to think about just yet, but next game and the game after, then we should start seeing some results. And then hopefully, if you're seeing this bit now, it actually all worked. And so what we'll do, we'll have a review of the campaign at the end and see what could be tweaking or if it's good to go. And encourage you guys to try it out and let me know. And if you haven't noticed all the rules for the campaign, go to the introduction video. I go over it section by section there. And remember, if you don't like it or numbers don't quite add up for you, just change them. I don't mind. I'd rather you do what you think is best and just have fun at the end of the day. And yeah, it's probably kept you a bit longer than my normal videos, but yeah, it will have this regimental administration bit at the end of these campaigns. So remember, take care, stay safe, and click on to the next game and see if